This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Okay, online daters. Here's a book written with the hope this won't happen to you. Darlene Nolan met the man of her dreams, left her Maine home, and flew far, far away before she realized, among other things, she had a great title for a book and a true story entitled Involved with a Cat for 7 Years in the Twilight Zone. Okay, I gotta know. How hot was he?
Oh my God, he was hot. He was all that, plus a bag of chips. He was hot. He was like beyond hot.
So, okay, you meet him on Facebook, and then when do you meet him? Like, how long do you correspond before you decide that you're going to meet him?
2 months before I got my passport, hopped on a plane and flew across the pond.
London?
That was the first airport that I went to. No, he was a little further into Europe.
Where?
Well, I'm supposed to protect his whereabouts, but my readers, I really think that they can put two and two together as to where, but I can't come out and actually say it because I'm trying to protect his identity for legal reasons. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So, where this place that you went to, what did he live in a nice place?
Absolutely not.
Oh, no.
Not at all. Nope. A place that was run down and extremely poverty stricken.
When you first laid eyes on him, what went through your mind?
Like, wow. His picture didn't do him justice. When I saw him in person, he was like 100 times nicer than his picture. So yeah. Yeah.
Are you guys like around the same age?
No. Nope. He was 12 years younger than me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So put two and two together there, and yeah.
Did he end up coming back with you or what?
Nope. He never came to the United States. His visa application was denied because I didn't meet the financial requirements to support him in the United States. So I ended up living there and supporting him there.
Did you meet his family?
Yeah, we lived with his family.
For 7 years, you lived with this family.
A total of 6 years. I was actually living in a European country. I flew back and forth a couple of times.
Okay, so what about your family? Did anybody in your family go, Darlene, what are you doing?
Yeah. From the very beginning, they all said, he's brainwashing you and you need to snip this in the bud and end it immediately because it's not going to end well. And they were right.
So you married him?
Yeah.
Over there, wherever there is.
Yes.
In the Twilight Zone. Let's just say he's in the Twilight Zone. How about that?
Thank you. Thank you. That works.
Darlene, did you just come out of a bad relationship?
Yeah. Well, it was a long relationship, probably the longest one I've ever had. It really didn't end well. My father passed away and his mother passed away within the space of 3 weeks of each other. So, yeah, I was going through a rough time.
So it was nice having somebody. Did he make you feel like $1 million?
God, yeah, yeah. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Did he expect you to take care of him for the rest of his life?
Well, I think so. That's pretty much what it appeared to be. Yeah, pretty much. He couldn't come here, so he was content to have me support him there. I mean, yeah. So either way, he seemed to think that, that I was his, sugar mother or something.
When did you realize, like, things weren't right?
This is going to sound really, on our wedding day, I realized that things were not right.
Wow.
And 7 months after that is when the really hit the fan. Some words were said that kind of blew him and all of his intentions right out of the water. They were pretty devastating. That's in the book. I'm not gonna give it up.
No.
You have to read the book now.
This could be like a little movie of the week,
right?
I think
Netflix,
so, little Netflix.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So was it messy to get out of it? Was it hard to get out of it?
Yeah, it was extremely hard to. Well, I'm in a foreign country, and the U.S. Embassy was not too helpful. They pretty much will tell you that when you leave the United States, you're pretty much on your own. We'll give you some ideas, recommend a good divorce attorney to you, which they did, thank God. I couldn't hardly understand him because I didn't really know the language. So that was kind of rough, but I made it. I made it out. When I returned back here for the last time in 2017, I came back here and I was like, what the hell just happened to me? It was that devastating. I wanted to find out what just happened to me. What did I just go through? What did this person do to me? What was this person? And I learned quite a bit of what he was and what he was doing and what he did to me. So,
But what did you learn about you?
I learned that I was vulnerable and I was perfect prey for a predator. You know, that's what I learned. And what I've been doing since that time is working on me, my well-being, my health, because when you go through something like that, it really affects your health, and that's also in my book. I was literally, physically falling apart. You know.
You must be scared to death to meet anybody.
Yeah. I mean, when you go through something like that, you don't trust anybody, you don't want to go down that road. I just got a invitation from a Massachusetts librarian to do an author's night on Zoom, and that's going to begin in March.
Great.
And I'm really excited about that. So I'm
Good,
really
Darlene.
excited.
All right. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for you, and I hope you find somebody, and I can't wait for your next book. Next up, Paul Nemeth. He was an electrical engineer when he was chosen for a very unique and important job while he was serving in the Vietnam War. A job that took him to China and a place he named his book after, Tai Mo Shan, Mountain in the Clouds. So it was a 4-year classified assignment with a British Air Force intelligence signals unit.
Right. Let me give you a little background, historical background. In 1950, when we went into Korea, we entered on the side of the South Koreans, pushed the North Koreans who invaded the South all the way back up to what's called the Yalu River, which is the border between North Korea and China. And it was at that time that China entered the war. And I guess it was during this Vietnam conflict that somebody in the Pentagon decided, hey, who's watching China? And they said, oh, we have Paul. We'll let him watch them. At that time, I was an electrical engineer. I was on my way to Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base to be a radar maintenance officer for a mobile radar unit. And I was pulled off the airplane and told my assignment had been changed. So that's what happened.
You went to the Mountain in the Clouds, Tai Mo Shan?
Correct. That's what it means in Cantonese. In fact, I had to even learn a little Cantonese while I was there. All it did was get me in trouble every time I tried to use my Cantonese.
So what's the story? What's the book about?
Well, first, it tells a story about how I was actually spying on China, watching to make sure that they didn't rev up to send troops or airplanes or whatever to help the North Vietnamese. So that was my primary job, to report back to the Pentagon if I saw anything. In the intelligence world, in the spy world, we do what other countries do too. And we were having overflights of China. So somebody was worried about having them shot down by the Chinese Air Force. So somebody had to inform them that they were being chased, talked by the American intelligence airplanes that were overseeing China. So that was part of my job, to keep us informed of what was going on with Vietnam. And we had a radar unit located in Hong Kong, which was run by the British, but was actually owned by the U.S. It was American radar, long-range radar. And we had one other unit like it stationed in Da Nang, what they call I-Corps in Vietnam. And the two radars intersected each other over Hainan Island in the South China Sea. So part of my job was that because we had a higher priority than Vietnam, if anything went wrong with our radar, I could go over to Vietnam and pick up a part and just take it off their radar and bring it back to Hong Kong. They were never happy when I came over there to do that. So and a lot of incidences occurred during my time in Hong Kong on this job, and they were very humorous. I say I come from a mixed marriage in New York, by the way, Alice. My wife is from Brooklyn and I'm from the Bronx, you know.
Oh.
What can I tell you?
Oh.
So my wife, Ellen, which is her middle name, actually, came over. She was about 7 or 8 months pregnant, and my son Michael was born there. And my wife being Jewish, we had to have what's called a moil. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I know that. I've been to those.
So try to get a moil in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I bet that's really easy.
I did. But I spent a whole chapter on that in my book, how I got one and the event that occurred, and getting bitten by the governor's dog playing golf on the golf course. So a lot of funny incidents happened while I was there, and I try to relate them in the book to keep it humorous.
Yeah. I didn't expect this to be humorous, but...
we were watching. We're not just sitting idly by while we're in conflict at any time. Even during the period that we're in now, we're not sitting idly by. There are those people that are watching, still on guard. Right now, like in the United States, can be very vulnerable to outside attack. And so I just want to make sure that the reader knows that there's always somebody that's there watching, trying to keep us safe. So...
Thank you. Good to know. Let's go to China, where Robert Bonnet is the head of flight operations at Macau Jet. We spoke about 3 years ago when his first book came out about his job as a Falcon jet pilot, carrying wealthy passengers all over the world and the challenges that involves, both professionally and privately. Now, he shares more of his experiences in his second book called Stargazers.
I went through so many things in my life before. So many experiences, 43 years of flying. So I thought I would write down at least some of those things, and it went really fast. You know, I'm the way I did it is that I used my logbooks, and I went date by date and flight by flight, and of course I couldn't write everything, but I wrote some of the experiences that I remembered, and it ended up being very interesting. I like it. There are many details of several flights that I made, which were challenging at the time. We made flights to Africa, and this was in the 1980s. We made flights to Northeast Asia, and when things were very different today, this happens every day. It's no longer, it's just everyday business. But back then it was a little bit more interesting. We did the first flight with no navigator on board, for example, from Kathmandu to Beijing in 1984. Beijing was a beautiful city back then, almost no cars. Everybody was riding on bicycles and dressed in green or blue overalls. And today, Beijing is a metropolis as modern, as amazing as you've ever seen. So there have been many changes, and I write about these differences that I saw back then. I arrived here in Macau in 2008. And since the last time I'd flown into Asia, 2008 until now, it's a completely different continent. So it's been an eye-opener. Interesting to see how people were very limited in Asia back then. And you know, the exponential growth that they have, especially in China, is really mind-boggling. It's just amazing. It's a comparison. It's also a collection of cultural differences. Particularities that you find in, for example, countries like Malaysia and countries like Thailand and countries like Philippines. It's all different. So I learned to admire the qualities that each of these people have, each of these cultures. Something that to me was very interesting was that, you know, we receive all this information about Muslims. Muslims are mean, it's dangerous, stay away from those countries, whatever. And frankly, I don't think I ever met countries where I was received more openly than Muslim countries. It's really, really amazing. You have to abide by the law. You have to be really, just follow what they ask you to do. But nobody ever bothers you because punishments are so severe that people just tend to stay centered into behaving properly. This is just one of the points of view. For example, every country has different things like this. So I was traveling, I would always pay attention to these things. These things are important. It's not just the flight from point A to point B and the the professional challenges that you have, assembling a flight that's going to go through different continents you've never been to. It's pay attention to the people, pay attention to the cultures, the kindness of people around the world. This is what I try to impress in this book. So it's a book about the aviation experiences and a book about people and about cultures. Since this is not a technical manual, they may not be interested in acquiring it, but it could be in a library, for example, because this is what these people are going to be going through in their lives. The people that choose to go business jets instead of commercial airlines will go through all these things.
Yeah.
And even commercial airlines, because a lot of these comments, a lot of these experiences are based on my time in the airlines. So this is a plan that I have.
All right, Robert, be careful out there, and I'll talk to you when you finish your next book. We'll be back right after this.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Okay, we're back on the Page Publishing Book Club, and so are you. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Not much more to say once you hear the title of our next book, written by Prince Kafane Mbing. Painful Death. The loss of a child is a parent's worst nightmare.
My son died at about 25 years old, and I decided to tell the story so that people can learn from my story, because sometimes we are taken unaware when things like this happen. Up till this day, I hate to reflect on that day, but I was home all day with my two boys. And the two boys had lunch together. My wife came back in the evening, so I told the younger one to go get his brother so we could have dinner. He went up to his room, came down and told me he's sleeping. So, well, you know, these young people. The younger one and I had dinner. And he went back to his room. I was sitting in the living room by myself, and parental instinct, I just decided to walk to my son's room. I went up there and called him, looked at the way he was lying on the bed, touched him, he was cold. I screamed. My younger son came, we called the emergency people, they came, we went to the hospital, and he was pronounced dead.
What happened? How?
Apparently, he must have overdosed on something, which I was unaware of. He must have overdosed on something, because at that point, I had no explanation. And so when the tox result came, he had some fentanyl. The first time I heard that word in his system. So that was the story of my life in 2018.
I am so sorry. I am just so sorry. Did writing about it help you?
It certainly did, because that's the way over the years from when I was a child, I usually wrote to express myself and get out stuff from my system. And so writing about it was very helpful to me, particularly because I knew it was helping other people. His mother and my son, particularly enjoyed it, because everything I wrote, I will send to them. And then I was trying more like to console everybody, the immediate family, the extended family, the community at large, and all of that. So I spent so much time explaining things to people and trying to, stay calm. And that helped me a lot. Yeah, it did.
Did you go for grief counseling? Did you seek any kind of help to get through this?
Oh, no, just, personal counseling, talking about it to my friends, talking about it to my clients. I'm a Christian, I'm a deacon. And so all of that, factored in. And the fact that I took immediate control of the situation and made sure I was counseling people about how to feel about it and all of that, I didn't see any need. I even told his mother wanted the younger one and her to go to counseling and all that. And the younger one said, well, Daddy can counsel me. So I just, kept talking to him, talking to myself.
You wrote this book to help other parents who've lost children somehow get through it.
Yes.
So what is your advice to them?
when you live with your children in the house, don't take anything for granted. When you come into the house, don't assume that because your son is sleeping or your daughter is sleeping, she's actually sleeping. Always check on them because you never know. Make sure you listen to your children because sometimes they're trying to tell you something and you think, well, I'll deal with it later, not knowing that you needed to deal with it. Just so much parenting advice on general issues. So that's what I do when I talk with my friends. And since it happened, I've had so many other people who've had the same experience. As a matter of fact, last night I made a call to a congressman's office in Maryland just because I was found out that he lost his 25-year-old son on the 31st of December.
Yes,
Congressman Jamie Raskin.
Oh.
I felt so bad and I called his office. I was going to offer a congressman advice and send him my book. That's So that's what I do. I try to reach out so that people can stop taking things for granted.
All right, Prince, thanks so much. When Hope Atwood Dayhoff wasn't doing photo shoots in Florida, she was thinking of fairy tales like the ones she used to tell her 5 children. Now she's written one of her own. It's entitled Penelope Woodsbury, Part 1.
I simply had a dream concerning this particular book that I wrote. And the title, of course, is Penelope Woodsbury. It's a young girl who is very different. She has what is believed to be a magical mark, and there is a magical, mysterious forest with a middle-aged rabbit lady who has been trying for 100 years to make contact with a human being, and she finds this young girl, and through magical means of her own, she figures a way to get the young girl's attention. And eventually, the young girl does meet Penelope Woodsbury. And Penelope Woodsbury has been waiting to tell her life story, and Penelope has many stories to tell, and she has chosen this young girl. So I can remember as I grew up, I just loved Alice in Wonderland, and everything she met could talk, and it just came natural to me that Penelope would describe life situations, and that is what she's anxious to do. And she starts telling her stories, but the characters wind up having stories concerning their lives. So I believe it makes it quite interesting.
How are people finding out about your book?
Well, I have a social media address on Facebook. I had a book signing.
Where did you have a book signing?
At Marco Island Center for the Arts, Florida, November 21st. I had it on the outside patio of the building, and almost all of them were wearing masks, and of course I was wearing a mask.
You were able to talk to them and sign your book. That's great to hear.
Yes, it turned out pretty good.
Well, Hope, you're giving people hope because you just can't do that in every state. All right, finally, Sheila Curry Smith believes there are people who can tell the future, and she's got a story that explains why in her book, Written in Stone.
Well, me and my husband, I've been knowing him from ever since I was 17. And I went to this church where my pastor prophesied to me that I was going to get married. And I was like, oh, really? Not knowing I already knew him, but we didn't see each other until 30 years later. She prophesied everything from the beginning. When God said it was time for us to be together, he blinded us for 30 years before he put us together. And I didn't even know that she was talking about him until one day we saw each other. She said I was going to see him again, and she said his name and everything. It's written in the stone. This is a story of how God took the lives of two people and turned it into one love affair that is so real. We didn't even know that it was coming, you know? Matter of fact, I saw him at a BP station. When she hadn't already told me I was going to see him again, I was already in this gas station, going to get gas. Didn't even know that he was behind me. Then when I walked out, he didn't even know that was me. So when I was pumping gas, I turned around and I saw him and I was like, Johnny. And he was like, that was you in the store? And I was like, yes. I didn't even see him. And then he said, you have a minute? I didn't even know that he liked me and I liked him when I was in high school. Okay. Wow. But it just took 30 years for all this to manifest.
So did you end up getting married?
Yes, we got married. My pastor married us. We've been married for 12 years now. The story is about how people have to realize how good God is. And, you know, you have to do what God wants us to do.
So this is to help people have faith.
Yes, faith. Yes, in God. Yes.
I guess you tell your story to everybody, right?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And they'd be like, wow, are you serious? A lot of people can't believe it. And right, I had to do what God wanted me to do, to write this book. Because it's a true story and it needed to be told. It wrote itself. There's so much more to the story, you know. His baby brother, my baby brother knew each other. They was best friends and they got killed in 1996. Their birthday in 1996. And we just found that out in 2017 that they was best friends.
How did this pastor know?
God gave it to her. Wow. He gave her the word. He told her everything.
All right, Sheila. Well, listen, we got to get out before they kick us out. Thanks so much for joining us, and tell your people. Go to 710WOR.com and download the podcast. I'm Atlas Stockton Rossini. I'll catch you next time.